What would you say if I told you there's a prophet in the Bible who never died? Elijah's journey to heaven in a fiery chariot is one of the most incredible stories in Scripture, and today, we'll explore exactly what happened and why it matters. Elijah's story starts in the rugged land of Gilead, a harsh and challenging place. He wasn't from a royal family or a priestly background, but his name, Elijah, meaning "My God is Yahweh," made it clear that he was chosen for a special mission. He was bold, full of faith, and ready to confront kings, challenge false gods, and perform miracles that would change Israel forever. Elijah first appears in 1 Kings 17 when he boldly tells King Ahab that there would be no rain in the land except at his word. This wasn't just a weather prediction. It was a direct challenge to Baal, the false god that Jezebel, Ahab's wife, had introduced to Israel. Elijah's message was clear. Israel needed to turn back to the one true God. After delivering this message, God told Elijah to hide by the brook Chariot. Even though he was in isolation, God provided for him in a miraculous way. Ravens brought him bread and meat every morning and evening. When the brook dried up due to the drought, God led Elijah to the town of Zarephath. There he met a widow who had only a little flour and oil left, enough to make one final meal for her and her son. But what happened next? How did God use Elijah to show his power to the widow? In one of the most touching stories of faith, Elijah asked a poor widow to make him a small meal with the last bit of flour and oil she had. Even though she barely had enough for herself and her son, she trusted Elijah's word that God would keep her supplies from running out. And sure enough, just as God promised, the flour and oil never ran dry, providing for them throughout the entire drought. But Elijah's time with the widow wasn't without heartache. Her son fell seriously ill and eventually died. In her grief, she questioned Elijah, wondering if his presence had caused the tragedy. Moved by her sorrow, Elijah took the boy into his room and prayed to God. After praying 3 times, the boy's life returned, and Elijah brought him back to his mother. This miracle not only restored the boy's life, but confirmed Elijah as a true prophet of God. But Elijah's most famous moment came when he confronted the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. By this time, Israel had fallen deep into idolatry, with King Ahab and Queen Jezebel leading the way. God instructed Elijah to challenge the prophets of Baal in a public showdown to prove who the real God was. Elijah stood alone against 450 prophets of Baal and 400 prophets of Asherah. The challenge was simple. Both sides would prepare a bull for sacrifice, but not set fire to it. The real God would be the one who sent fire from heaven to consume the sacrifice. The prophets of Baal cried out to their God from morning until noon, even cutting themselves in desperation, but there was no response. With boldness and even humor, Elijah taunted them, suggesting that maybe their God was asleep or too busy to answer. Then, it was Elijah's turn. He repaired the broken altar of the Lord, placed the bull on it, and had the entire altar soaked with water 3 times, making it impossible for any human trickery. Then Elijah prayed, asking God to show himself to the people. Instantly, fire fell from heaven, consuming the offering, the wood, the stones, and even the water in the trench. The people fell to their knees, shouting, "The Lord, He is God." If you're learning a lot from this video so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. But what happened after this amazing victory? How did this prophet's journey continue? After the contest on Mount Carmel, Elijah prayed for rain, and after a 3-year drought, the heavens opened. But Elijah's triumph angered Queen Jezebel, who vowed to kill him. Afraid for his life, Elijah fled into the wilderness, where he hit rock bottom. He prayed for God to take his life, feeling like a failure despite all the miracles he had witnessed. But God had other plans. An angel appeared to Elijah, providing him with food and water and encouraging him to continue his journey. Strengthened by his divine sustenance, Elijah traveled 40 days and nights to Mount Horeb, Mount Sinai, where he had a profound encounter with God. But instead of appearing in a mighty wind, earthquake, or fire, God came to Elijah in a gentle whisper, giving him new instructions: anoint new kings and prepare Elisha as his successor. Are you inspired by Elijah's journey of faith? Be sure to subscribe and click the bell for more incredible stories like this one. Though Elijah had already accomplished so much, the most remarkable part of his journey was yet to come. God revealed to Elijah that he would be taken to heaven without dying, an event so extraordinary it had only happened once before, with Enoch. On his final day, Elijah set out with Elisha, his faithful companion. They traveled from Gilgal to Bethel, then to Jericho, and finally to the Jordan River. At each stop, Elijah urged Elisha to stay behind, but Elisha refused, determined to stay by his mentor's side until the end. Along the way, the sons of the prophets asked Elisha if he knew that Elijah would be taken from him that day. Elijah responded, "Yes, I know, but be quiet," staying focused on the moment at hand. When they arrived at the Jordan, Elijah took his cloak, rolled it up, and struck the water. Just as God had parted the Red Sea for Moses, he parted the Jordan for Elijah and Elisha, allowing them to cross on dry ground. As they walked together, Elijah asked Elisha, "What can I do for you before I am taken from you?" Elisha made a bold request. He asked for a double portion of Elijah's spirit. Elijah told him that this was a difficult request, but promised that if Elisha saw him when he was taken up, his request would be granted. Then, as they continued walking, the most incredible thing happened. A chariot of fire, drawn by horses of fire, appeared between them, and Elijah was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha watched in awe as his mentor disappeared into the sky, crying out, "My father! My father! The chariots and horsemen of Israel!" Elijah was gone, taken to heaven without dying. Elisha picked up Elijah's cloak, the symbol of his prophetic power, and returned to the Jordan River. In faith, he struck the water with the cloak, and once again, the river parted. The sons of the prophets who had been watching from a distance saw this and declared, "The spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha." Elijah's life didn't just end with his departure to heaven. His influence reaches beyond his time. The Bible prophesies that Elijah will return before the great and terrible day of the Lord, Malachi 4:5, a powerful reminder of God's faithfulness and his promise of ultimate victory. Elijah's miraculous departure also foreshadows the promise given to all believers, that those who are alive when Christ returns will be caught up to meet him in the air without experiencing death. 1 Corinthians 15:51 through 52. Elijah's life challenges us to live with that same expectancy, faithfully following God's calling, knowing he has a plan for us far greater than we can imagine. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through Elijah's life. If you want to dive deeper into more amazing stories of faith, be sure to click on this next video.